Hey, you guys. Welcome to Talk About It Thursdays. I am your host, Karen Bailey. Let me know when you're on and we will get started for today. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope everyone has had a wonderful day. I hope this is your downtime, your relaxation time. And I thank you in advance for just coming on the page and just joining in for a little bit, just supporting the page. It means so much to so many people, you guys. I get messages all the time about how much Sister I Got You encourages, how much it helps you when you're feeling like you're running out of strength, when you're feeling down. So don't ever think that your posts are in vain. Don't ever think that you sharing and that you liking people's posts when they put them on there. Don't ever think that that's in vain. You're helping somebody. So I thank everybody that's active with the page. I thank everybody that comes on and watches the podcast, because we can't do this by ourselves. Only way we're going to be better is to do it one step at a time. And it feels better to know that not only are you trying to improve yourself, not only are you dealing with your own issues, but it's other women and other men out there that can admit they don't have it all together and they're dealing with their issues as well. And we're all just trying to take this thing one day at a time and just be better than we were before. You guys, last week when we talked about adulting, how adulting ain't for sissies. And you guys, if you've ever had an opportunity to talk to your children, before they got out of the house, let them know, the fun and games are going to be there, but also it's a lot of responsibility with being an adult. It's a lot that you're going to be expected to change as far as your behavior, and you're going to be responsible to people, and you're also going to be responsible for yourself. So make sure before you let your children get out in the world and let them be illusioned into thinking, being an adult is the greatest thing in the world. It's something we all have to do, but let them know that there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with it as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed Adulting Ain't for Sissies. Because, honey, it brought back a whole lot of memories, whole lot of things I would change if I could start over and just be smarter about things had I known what I know, up to this point about how difficult it can be at times to be an adult. So let's move on to our topic today, you guys, because I'm timely and I try not to hold you guys long. Our topic today is dust settles, but I don't. So many times in life, you can look back and you can think about things you did in your past, things that you settled for in your past. And you ask yourself, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? I knew better. Why did I do that? And why did I settle? And there's so many different reasons as to why people settle. Sometimes it's because of low self-esteem. Sometimes it's about a financial gain. Sometimes it's about peer pressure. There's so many different reasons why we all settled, but we have to know our own individual reason as to why we did what we did. And unfortunately, for some of us, we can remember far too many occasions where we settled for what we didn't want, or that we didn't deserve, or what wasn't good for us. And like I say, we do that for a variety of reasons. Sometimes we get in situations. I know when I was younger, being an unwed mother, that was one of those things that was frowned upon, or it was like a stigma attached to it. It's nothing like it is now. People have children now, they throw big parties for them and gender reveals like it's nothing. But back when I was in my early 20s, that was one of those things people still frowned upon. And it was a lot of pressure for you to make your family complete, to have a father in the house. Whether it was a pressure to marry the guy that got you pregnant, or it was a pressure to find somebody to take that guy's place. There was a lot of that back in my day. I don't think it's as much of that now, as far as from what I can see. But sometimes you settle just because of the situation that you may have gotten yourself into. Maybe you're settling because you need a place to stay. You're settling because you need somebody to take care of you. Things of that nature. But settling is never a good idea, no matter what the reason. And then we settle. We set ourselves up for 4 things: dissatisfaction, disappointment, discouragement, and depression. Those are the 4 things that happen to you when you settle for something that you know was not God's best for you. And I can honestly say I can be a witness to that. I've settled in relationships. I was dissatisfied. I was disappointed. I was discouraged. And it even led to depression for a short time in my life, simply because I felt the pressure of not being single, the pressure of being in a relationship. I don't see so much of that pressure now, but like I say, in years before, it was a big deal. They looked at single people as if there was something wrong with you. They would say, well, why you don't have anybody? What's wrong with you? Why can't nobody be with you? They wanted to make it seem like it was a personal problem if you chose to be single. But what I see now in the society that we have now, that's not so much of an issue. But anytime I've ever settled for anything in my life, you guys, and you can be a witness, I'm sure there's some things you can roll back in your head that you settled for. Didn't it lead to dissatisfaction? Didn't it lead to disappointment? Didn't it lead to discouragement? And didn't it lead to feeling bad about yourself or feeling depressed? That's why it's so important, you guys, that we don't ever settle for less than what we deserve. Dust settles. We don't. And we need to get that in our head that we deserve better. We deserve to have the best that we could possibly have. And we've got to stop settling for something that you feel in your heart. You get an unction in your spirit when something is not exactly what you need and that you're settling for it. You get a sense of that. So we've got to stop settling for those things. So I want to define what it means to settle. Let's talk about settling in a relationship. That means being ready to accept less than what you want or deserve. I don't know how many people have done that. I've done that before. Just to be in a relationship or just to have a father in the home for my children. And the difference between settling and being realistic, because sometimes people get that mixed up. Sometimes it's not settling. Sometimes you're just being realistic about what you have and what you need. And the difference is, number one, are you compromising or always making sacrifices? If you're constantly making all the sacrifices, then you're settling. And so you have to understand that in a relationship, if you're the one that's going the extra mile all the time, more than likely you're settling. Number two, are you letting go of your younger version of yourself? Or are you putting your future on hold? Sometimes you can get in relationships and it just steals all the youth out of you, all the excitement out of you. If you're dealing with that, then you're probably settling. And the person you're with may not be the most handsome person to anybody else, the richest person, but he could be exactly what you need. That's reality. But however, if you are beginning to slowly let go of your future aspirations and your personal dreams that you had for your future, then you're settling. Number three, can you talk openly about your relationships or your problems, or are you ashamed to discuss them? If your issues make you feel embarrassed and you cannot discuss them with anyone, then you could be settling. The right person will never do anything that hurts you and is embarrassing. So embarrassing that you cannot share it. So recognize the difference between when you're settling in a relationship and when you're just being realistic. Reality says nobody's perfect. Everybody's going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to have flaws. That person's not going to do everything I like. That person's going to get on my nerves sometimes. That's not settling. That's just being honest. Just being realistic. But when everything that person does upsets you, everything that person says to you hurts you, then you've settled in that relationship. Number 4, are you excited about the future you have together? Or are you more afraid of just being alone? If you're afraid of being alone and you've clung to somebody else in a relationship just because you can't stand the idea of not having somebody, then more than likely you're settling because you're living in fear. And God doesn't want you living in fear. God didn't give you the spirit of fear. So he doesn't want you residing in that. He wants you to understand that he is more than enough, that he is a comforter, that he will be that friend that sticks closer than a brother. You know, a lot of times we try to replace God with people, and you'll always be those 4 things. When you try to do that, you'll always be dissatisfied, disappointed, discouraged, or depressed when you try to replace God with somebody else. And sometimes we try to settle for that, and nothing you do is going to replace God in your life. So get that relationship together first before you start seeking somebody else and trying to get them to fill the empty places in your life. God is the only one that can fill those places with his spirit. So don't spend your time trying to put somebody in a position that they're not ready for. So let's talk about 10 signs that show that you're settling in a relationship. Number 1, you're comfortable putting up with things that you said were deal breakers. You know, a lot of us, you know, we have an idea of what things we will tolerate and what we won't tolerate. But when you have started just letting that line be blurred, and you are the one that's always compromising and making excuses and trying to find a reason for why they did what they did instead of sticking to your guns, to your principles, and let your yes be yes and your no be no. If that's a deal breaker, let them know that you're not going to tolerate that. I'm not going to settle for that. But when you're settling in a relationship, you'll slowly start letting go of those deal breakers because you want to keep the relationship going. Number 2, if you're settling in a relationship, you let your biological clock determine what you do. You know, a lot of times people are so worried about, oh, I'm not married by this age. Oh, I haven't had a baby by this age. I was supposed to be doing this by this age. People worry so much about age and competing with the Joneses and trying to have the same thing somebody else has. They miss out on the joys in life, the little things in life, all the good experiences they could be having while they're worrying about what they don't have or what they haven't done by a certain age. So if you're letting your biological clock determine what you do and you're settling just to be able to check something off on a box, okay, I did this by this age, but you're not happy with it, you're not fulfilled with it, it's not really what you want, but you just needed to check that box by age 30 or by age 40, then you're settling. Number 3, they don't want deep conversation. Anybody you're in a relationship with that's intimate with you, if they don't want deep conversation with you, if they don't want to get to know how you think, how you feel, what you like, what you don't like, guess what? You're settling. You're settling. You're settling for a warm body. You're settling for someone's leftover attention for you. Because I promise you, if he's not listening to you and talking to you, he's probably talking to somebody else. So when they don't want deep conversation with you, they don't want to know your heart, they don't want to understand your spirit, they don't want to understand your relationship with God, they don't want to see what they can do to make your life better, then you're settling. Number 4, you're constantly scared that you're missing out on something in life. You know, when you're constantly having those thoughts, you know, that, man, I wish I could be doing this, or I wonder if, what my life would have been like, you know, if I had done this instead of this. That means you're settling. If you're always thinking about what you're missing out on, then you're not fulfilled where you are right now in the relationship you're in. So you're just settling. That's why your mind keeps wondering on, I wonder what it would be like if I was doing this or with this person or that person, or being able to be single again. That's because you're not fulfilled where you are and you settled in the relationship you're in. Because a relationship should leave you wanting nothing. If it's the right relationship between the two of you, y'all should not have anything lacking. You know, you should be able to have your best friend, have your lover, have your confidant, you know, have your provider, have your protector, all of that in one. You know, if it's the right relationship. But if you've got to venture out in your mind wondering how I wish I had this, I wish I had that, I wish I had this type of man, that type of man, then you settled in your relationship. Number 5, you try to change your partner all the time. You're not happy with who they are, so you're constantly trying to make them into what you want them to be because you've settled. You can't change anybody, you guys. Only God can change a person, and a person's got to want to change on top of that. Number 6, you put yourself on hold. If everything is about that other person, what they want, how they want it, when they want it, then you've settled. Because in a relationship, it's give and take, it's compromise, is I'm going to do what's best for you, you're going to do what's best for me, and together, you know, we're going to build something. But if you're always being put on hold, your dreams, when you try to talk about them, they're always being put down, you know, as if they're not important, you know, your ideas, your thoughts don't mean anything, then you probably settled. Number 7, your enthusiasm for the relationship is declining. You're not excited about seeing that person like you used to be. You're not excited about spending alone time with that person. You know, you don't get excited about taking trips. You're not planning things anymore. You're not trying to do different activities around the house with them. You've settled because you're not even excited about that person anymore. Hey, Tyra. So understand that when you lose your enthusiasm for your relationship, when that partner that you've chosen no longer excites you, or the idea of being alone with them doesn't make you happy, or doesn't get you to the point where you look forward to that, then you probably settled in a relationship. Number 8, you fear loneliness. When you fear loneliness, you guys, it's going to be some lonely times when you're single, but when you fear that, you will get desperate. You will get desperate, and desperation will get you in trouble. So be careful about fearing loneliness. There's going to be lonely times, but you know what? That's when you take that time and you work on you. That's that time when you call your friends and say, hey girl, what you doing? Let's get out. Let's go eat. Let's go walk. Let's go play basketball. Let's go do something. Be careful in your lonely times, because that's when the enemy is going to be in your ear and he's going to make you do something desperate. Hey, Michael. He's going to make you do something desperate, or convince you that this superficial thing that you think that you want is going to fulfill you. Loneliness, you have to learn how to master loneliness, because it's going to come in your life, especially when you're single. And I dare say, even when I was married, there were some lonely times when I was married, but you've got to not let that be bigger than your life, be bigger than what you've got going on. You know, anything that you focus on gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If you're sitting around focusing, oh, I don't have anybody, I don't have anybody to talk to, this, that, and you keep talking about that, that thing gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Find something to do in those lonely times. That's when you need to find you a hobby, find you some friends that like to do what you like to do, and stop focusing so much on yourself. Because a lot of times when you're alone, those thoughts go through your head. You need to find something to keep your mind busy and to keep your hands busy. And that way the enemy can't talk you into doing something desperate that you're going to regret later on. And of course, he always makes it sound like, oh, it's going to be the best thing in the world. It's going to take care of your loneliness, but it's always a disappointment, you guys. And like I said before, anytime you move out of loneliness, you're going to have the same things happen. dissatisfaction, disappointment, discouragement, and some form of depression. So you have to be careful about letting things overtake you. You're stronger than that. You're better than that. Get in your word. Start praying and say, God, help me with this loneliness. I don't want to be afraid to be alone. It's okay to have some time by yourself. That's your meditation time. That's your quiet time. That's your prep time. But it's all about how you use that downtime and that time alone that matters. So make sure you're not settling for somebody's leftovers just because you're lonely. Hey, Arlene, just because you're lonely. Number 9, another sign that you settled in a relationship, you're justifying things. You justify what they do wrong, or you justify why you stay. A lot of times we'll justify, our friends, that really love us, try to say, girl, this is not good for you, blah, blah, blah. And we got all the answers in the world about why we need to stay. We'll come up with all these justifications because we're afraid to be alone. We're afraid to not have somebody. So you have to be careful about that, because you may have settled in a relationship and people are trying to let you know, girl, I know you deserve better than that. You're just not happy. You're not glowing. You don't even have any enthusiasm about yourself. But when you've settled, you're embarrassed. I know I was embarrassed when I settled. It was embarrassing that other people could tell that I settled in a relationship. And it was saddening for me, but it was also embarrassing because I knew it, but I didn't realize other people knew it. And so you begin to justify why you're there. Number 10, the 10th sign that you settled in a relationship, you frequently compare your relationship to others. When you're always looking over at somebody else's relationship and you're always comparing yourself to them, you're not secure in your own relationship. You're not settled with your own relationship, or you wouldn't have to compare yourself to other people. So those were the 10 signs of you settling in a relationship. Now, what we often settle for that we shouldn't. Number 1, crumbs. Crumbs is people's leftovers. That's people's leftover feelings, leftover attention, those type of things that we settle for any attention just to have some attention. You deserve better than that. Why are you settling for somebody else's crumbs? They don't want them, but they'll give them to you because you'll accept them. We have to be so careful about what we put out about ourselves. What you settle for really defines you. And people will pick up on that. It's just like raising children, okay? When they're little, they're toddlers, they know who they can get away with what with. Same thing in life. People know what they can give you by how you accept it. If you accept it all the time, you accept little, that's what you're going to get. If you expect little, that's what you're going to get. But if you speak up and say, I don't want this. This is not good enough. What is this? Why are you giving me this? This is not what I was expecting. You have to open your mouth and speak up for yourself. They used to say closed mouths don't get fed. And I didn't understand that. But now I understand, when you keep your mouth closed, you're going to be in want a whole lot of times. And when people are just throwing you bits and pieces and giving you just enough to keep you hanging on, and you keep allowing it, you're the one that's going to be in want. You're the one that's going to be hungry all the time. So your mouth won't ever get fed because you won't say anything. You have to love yourself enough to say, you know what, this is not acceptable. This is not good enough. I expect better than this. I'm not accepting this. And that doesn't mean that you're bougie. That doesn't mean that you're spoiled. That doesn't mean any of that. That just means you love yourself enough to know that you deserve better than somebody's crumbs. You deserve better than you texting somebody in the morning, they wait till midnight to text you back, and they got their phone all day. They're throwing you crumbs. You deserve to have somebody respond to you in a reasonable amount of time. And you deserve to have people want to be around you, not come in and out of your life and spend a few minutes and think that that's enough to be with you, barely getting to know you, but then expecting everything from you. Ladies, you know how that is. Sometimes we settle for men that dip in our lives, but then they want you to have the audacity to act like a wife to them when they're just part-time. They're in and out of your life, but they want you to perform all the wifely duties, you know, as if they're there in your life all the time. Stop settling for crumbs. Make people treat you the way you deserve to be treated, or be willing to let them go. If they don't see your worth, you need to be willing to let people move out of your life, because maybe they don't see you as valuable. And that's not on you, that's on them. But that's why it's so important how we carry ourselves, and that's why it's so important that we don't accept crumbs from people, because if you accept crumbs, that's how they're going to treat you, as if you're nothing. Another thing that we settle for that we shouldn't is disrespect. I don't care if it's from your children. I don't care if it's from your family member, your spouse, whoever. No one should be allowed to disrespect you and think that it's okay. You have to speak up and let people know that's not acceptable. You're not going to continue to do this. This conversation is over. I'm walking away. Love yourself enough to not allow all that negative energy to come into your life. Get away from people that cause you chaos and keep you stressed out and keep you worried all the time. Don't allow people to disrespect you by dumping all of their trash on you. Sometimes people don't value you enough to even allow you to have some peace of mind. Some people are always going to be willing to unload all of their stuff on you. That means they don't respect you. They don't respect the fact that you're tired. They don't respect the fact that you have things going on in your life. And you have to speak up to people sometimes and say, hey, I'm not a trash can. Hey, I can pray for you. Tell me what you need me to do for you, and I'll see what I can do. But I can't handle all of your stuff on top of my stuff. That's you respecting your peace of mind. And we have to stand up for ourselves, you guys, because when you're a good listener or when you're kind, people tend to take advantage of you, but you're the only one that can put a stop to that. So we need to stop settling for people treating us that way. And when it comes to our children, stop letting our children make us feel guilty about their childhood. You know, a lot of times we all made mistakes, but you know what? When they have their own children, they're going to make mistakes too. So whatever happened back then, you get your kids grown and gone out of the house. Don't let them keep bringing up that old stuff to you. You know, you did the best you could when you could, and they're going to understand what it's like when they have their own children. So don't even allow your own children to disrespect you. And sometimes we have spoiled children to the point where they feel entitled. You're going to have to handle that. You're going to have to nip that in the bud, because that's something you created. You created that monster. So you're going to have to learn how to deal with it and get the respect back that you deserve, because spare the rod, spoil the child. So many times people didn't want to spank their kids, and I'm a spanker, so I don't play that. But a lot of times those kids end up being very disrespectful to their parents, to other adults, etc. But you created that monster, so you need to do something about that. And then another thing that we often settle for that we shouldn't is just being comfortable. You know, a lot of times we get settled in relationships where we're not happy because either we're too lazy to get up and do something different, or we're comfortable financially, or we just don't want to try to do anything else. We just don't have the oomph in us to do anything else. So sometimes you can get comfortable in your dissatisfaction, comfortable in your disappointment, comfortable even in your depression sometimes, you know, because it takes effort to get up out of that. It takes being uncomfortable to get out of a situation that you settled for. It takes losing some things to get out of a situation that you have settled for. You don't come out of that unscarred. You don't come out of that free of charge. There's going to be some things you're going to lose. There's going to be some things you go through, but it's worth it to get out of something that you know that you settled for, that was not God's best for you. And that way you're free to move forward with your life and at least explore the possibility of something better. Number 4, Another thing we settle for is just safety. Some people just feel safe with the person that they're with. They may not even enjoy their company, but something about that situation makes them feel safe. And so sometimes we'll settle for something that's safe because getting out there means taking a risk. You know, getting out there means you got to trust yourself again. Getting out there means that you're going to be disappointed sometimes. So sometimes people settle for what's safe rather than get out there and explore in the excitement of the unknown. You know, people like to know what's going on every minute of the day, or what's going to happen tomorrow, this, that, and the other. And that's when you settle for safety. And you really don't trust yourself to get out there and make decisions and to make changes. And you're not willing to take a chance on being disappointed. You know, disappointments and failure are a part of life, but they make you stronger. They make you who you are, and they build your character. So those are the 4 things that we settle for that we really shouldn't. And we all need to make a declaration, you know, or a promise to ourselves to want better and to expect better for our lives. But it all starts with your thinking, how you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself. Number 1, you need to set boundaries and don't allow them to be crossed. You know what you've made up your mind you are not going to tolerate. Stop allowing people to step across those lines, and you're allowing them, and then you're the one that's miserable. Set your boundaries because you are teaching people how to treat you. Number 2, practice self-care and self-love. Do something for yourself. Show yourself some love. Before you put love out on everybody else, make sure you're loving yourself, making sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure your needs are met as well. That way you will be stronger and more capable to take care of somebody else. Go get that massage. You can afford it. Cut back on all them drive-through orders that you're doing. You can save up for a massage. You can get them for under $40. Do something for yourself. Get your feet done. Take a little mini vacation. You know, do some things for yourself. It's possible. You just have to prioritize yourself. Number 3, change your routine. Stop doing what's not working for you. If you're unhappy with your usual routine, switch it up. Do something different. Even if you incorporate just one thing, change your life. You have the power to change your life as long as you have breath in your body. You've got to make up your mind. Like I said a minute ago, it all starts with a thought. It's all about how you feel about yourself and what you feel you deserve. Number 4, expect more to get more. Tell yourself it's okay to want more than what you've got. It's okay. If what you're doing or who you're with or the friends that you're with, if you're no longer satisfied with that, if it leaves you hungry, it leaves you wanting, expect more. And it's okay to want more. And don't feel bad about the fact that you're growing, that you're stretching, that you're outgrowing people. That's just part of life. Number 5, stop making excuses and pay attention to rationalizations that you're making. Like I said, when we start making excuses about settling, about staying in something, this, that, and the other, or continuing a pattern of behavior that we know is not helpful, hear yourself. Listen to yourself. Listen to the excuses that you're making. Until you get tired of you, nothing will ever change. But if you're tired, then you need to make the necessary changes. Number 6, stop bending over backwards for everybody. You know, it's so easy when you're a giver to just give and give and give and give, but you're going to run out. And you're bending over for people that won't even step forward for you, that won't even support you, that won't even check on you. Stop bending over backwards for everybody and take care of yourself sometimes. Number 7, require. Hear me when I say this. Require. That means this is not an option, you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, stop letting people give you the tidbits of conversation. Require quality communication. Stop accepting vague text messages or the no phone calls. Like I said before, you reaching out to them, but they not reaching out to you. or they want to be in a relationship with you, but they can't even call you on the phone, and all they want to do is text you all the time. You can't build an intimate relationship through text messages. You need to be talking to that person, hearing that person's voice, seeing their facial expression, trying to understand, how they are, how they move, when they talk, how do they respond to things. Those are the things you can only get in a face-to-face interaction. And some of it you can get even in a phone call. But that's the only way that you're going to make a real connection with people. Text messaging, like I said before, so much can be misunderstood in text messages. And text messaging is just a lazy way that technology has come up with communication. But when you're in an intimate relationship, that's not good enough. You need something more than just that. That's what you do with your friends or your colleagues. But when it's somebody that you're really trying to get to know, when they are spending that kind of time with you, they have access to your body, you need quality communication. And you need to stop accepting excuses as to why they can't provide that for you. Hey, Christia, because you're settling if you do. Number 8, make sure their words line up with their action. Stop being okay with them doing the opposite of what they say. Make them keep their word. If they're not willing to keep their word, then you're settling. If everything they say sounds good, but they don't follow through, you're settling. And you need to recognize those things and understand that's not good enough. That's not enough for you. You want more than that. Because when you settle, the 4 things I said before, you're going to have dissatisfaction, disappointment, discouragement, and depression. Anytime you settle for bad communication, for somebody making a bunch of excuses or just straight out lying, or their words not lining up with their action. Everybody can talk good, but if they really care about you or really value you, they will make good on whatever they're saying. I had a gentleman who lived out of town, and he was calling himself trying to talk to me, this, that, and the other, and he made some promises. And I'm telling you, it didn't take long before he reneged on everything that he promised. And I said, you know what? Thank you, God, that I saw that early on. He's not for me, because I'm a woman of my word. Therefore, if you tell me something, or if I'm to expect us to do something, or we're planning something, and you're always backtracking, I'm not going to be satisfied with that. I'm not going to be happy with that. And there's no point in settling for that when I already know that it's not going to be good for me. So you know what you've been through before. You know what was dissatisfying. You know what depressed you before. You know what hurt you before. Stop settling for that same kind of behavior just because you want to be with somebody. Because you're going to end up at the end of it all with those 4 things: the disappointment, dissatisfaction, the depression, all of that. You're going to end up with that, and the discouragement. Number 9, listen to your friends. And when I say listen to your friends, I'm not talking about them associates that don't really know you, that's not been with you through the good and the bad. I'm talking about, when I say listen to your friends, I'm talking about those people that have seen you on your worst days, that have been through things with you, that have cried with you, that have laughed with you, that have been with you, when you've lost loved ones, you've been with them in and out of, bad relationships, they've been there for you. I'm talking about those type of friends. Listen to those people, because they end up being brutally honest. A lot of times we don't like somebody speaking about that person that we like. We'll say, girl, what you think about him? And then that friend, that true friend, will say, oh, girl, he all right, but it seems like something's off with him. Then we'll start rationalizing, girl, you just don't know him. Then blah, blah, blah. He real sweet, blah, blah, blah. But see, that real friend is trying to tell you they sense something is not right about that person. So you need to learn to listen to those people that truly love you. And I know sometimes people that say they're your friends don't mean you any good, but you're going to have to ask God to discern who your true friends are. And sometimes you can't even go to your family member, because sometimes your members don't want you to do any better than them, so they don't have anything nice to say anyway. So that's when you're going to have to ask God to help you discern who really loves you and who doesn't. Because when you ask them about that person, they're not going to be able to help themselves but say, hey, you know, I love you, girl, but I was watching him and he was looking at every woman that came in the room. And when you were doing this, he was on his phone. Or when you were doing this, he was flirting with the waitress. Listen to your friends. That's right, Christia. A true friend will tell you the truth even when it hurts. So if you've got somebody that loves you enough to tell you about somebody to try to keep you from being in a relationship where you'll end up having to settle and be miserable, listen to them. Learn to get over yourself and know people that love you and listen to them, and then pray about it. God will reveal it to you. And ask your friends their honest opinion before you get serious with somebody. Number 10, make notes of what is non-negotiable. You know, what do you stand on? What are your deal breakers? Sometimes you have to make notes to yourself and say, you know what, I'm not going to tolerate anybody that curses at me. I'm not going to tolerate anybody that calls me out of my name. I'm not going to tolerate anybody that's got baby mama drama. I'm not going to tolerate anybody that makes me feel like I'm not important. You need to make notes of the things that are non-negotiable. You've been through enough, you guys. You've been through enough pain. Hey, Lindsay, enough disrespect to know what's non-negotiable, what you don't want to go through anymore. That's what non-negotiable is. It's all of that stuff you don't want to go through anymore because it hurt you so bad it almost broke you. That's what a non-negotiable is. We all have to have a little wiggle room in relationships, but there are certain things that you know that you know that you know that you know that you don't ever need to tolerate again. And sometimes you need to write it down to remind yourself, because when those emotions get involved, we get a little cloudy. But you need to write those non-negotiables down and pray about them and say, God, help me not to settle for A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So know and stand by your deal breakers. It'll be worth it, you guys. 11, keep up with your hobbies and your interests. Always keep up with your hobbies. Like I said before, that's one way to combat loneliness, is to have some hobbies and have different people in your life that you can call on and do things with. That keeps you from getting in your head and thinking something's wrong with you, thinking that, well, maybe my standards are too high, or maybe I need to go ahead and call Jerome, you know, even though you know Jerome is nowhere what you want, nowhere good for you. Nothing about Jerome says he is the blessing that God has sent in your life. But when you get lonely, you'll start looking at them, they'll start looking better than they really are. So that's why you need to keep up with your hobbies and your interests, because that makes you an individual. Because even when you get in a relationship, you need to have your own thing. That person doesn't want you up under them all the time. You know, that's how you can wear people out emotionally, needing from them and pulling from them. You need to have your own sense of value, your own things that you like to do, your own interests. And that's what makes it beautiful, when you can put all of those things together. Number 12, before you settle or before you get deeply in a relationship, you need to discuss with that person what hurts you, because it's very hard for you to hold somebody responsible for something that they don't know. You know, they may have dealt with a different type of woman they could handle, you know, playing around, criticism, you know, certain little things they say, certain little things they do, but that may not be you. Maybe something has happened to you. Maybe people said those things in a hurtful way to you and they didn't mean it that way. Sit down and discuss what hurts you. That way, when you're talking about your non-negotiables, they're going to understand why this is no longer what I'm going to tolerate. Because once they understand how that hurts you, they're more than likely gonna soak that in and say, you know what, I don't want to ever put that man or that woman through that again. Number 13, stop trying to change other people. Like I said before, quit trying to change people. If they want to change, then they will. And if they decide that they are fine with who they are, and if that's not something that's working for you, you have to be okay with letting people go and letting people move on. Because sometimes they're not your cup of tea, but you're not theirs either. And two people that don't belong together trying to stay together is chaos, because everybody's miserable and everybody's trying to find a reason to stay, but you don't even really even like each other or enjoy each other's company. So quit trying to change people. Start praying about yourself and ask God if there's something inside of you that needs to change. Because sometimes we always think it's the other person. Sometimes it's some stuff in us, that stubbornness, that strong will, that bad habit, that we have in ourselves that's making us hard to deal with. So before you start talking about changing somebody else, make sure you talk to God about changing yourself and asking God to clean you up before you start asking him to do something about somebody else. And a lot of times he'll reveal to you what you need to be working on. Number 14, accept that being single is normal and okay. You will only be as good in a relationship as you are as a single person. Like I just said, you have to have your own sense of worth, your own characteristics. You can't go into a relationship expecting that person to absorb you and take care of you and keep you happy, this, that, and the other. That's not that person's job to complete you. You need to come into a relationship already your own person, already knowing what you want, what you like, having some hobbies, having some interests. Don't come in expecting that person to be your everything, because they can't do that. Nobody can do that. Nobody can make you happy. You have to be a happy person yourself, and you have to love yourself. You can't expect other people to love you when you don't love you. So my final thought is, whatever you do or whatever you decide to accept in your life, ask yourself 3 questions. Am I doing it out of emotion? Am I doing this out of fear? And have I taken the time to think and pray about it? And I'm sure that this is what is going to be best for me. Because after all, dust settles, but we don't. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Y'all stay safe, stay well, stay COVID free, and I will see you guys next week. Talk to you later. Bye.